So in math, we've been studying fractions, and today we learned what to do if you have two fractions that have the same numerator but different denominators. Okay? These are called unit fractions, and they're unit fractions because the numerator is one piece out of 2 for this one, and the numerator for this one is one piece out of 4. 4 is the denominator. So one part out of 4, one part out of 2. How do you know which is a bigger piece? Sometimes it's good to just look at a picture for a minute and to think to yourself, how big are the pieces if you're splitting a whole up into 2 pieces and if you're splitting a whole up into 4 pieces? So don't get tricked by thinking, oh, the denominator here is 4. It must be bigger than the denominator of 2. In fact, it's opposite. If you take a whole and you split it into 2, the pieces will be bigger than if you take a whole and split it into 4. The pieces will be smaller. So 1 part out of 2 is larger than 1 part out of 4. So we're going to put a greater than sign here. Let's try another one, but this time we're not going to use unit fractions. We're going to use unit fractions to help us, but we're going to be given some tougher fractions. All right. Now we have 3/4 and we have 3/8. Which is the greater fraction? In order to help us figure this out, let's use unit fractions. Let's think about what the unit fraction is for 3/4. What's the unit fraction for 3/4? That's right, 1/4. 1/4. And what's the unit fraction for 3/8? That's right, 1/8. Now think to yourself, if you split up a whole into 4 equal parts, will they be bigger than if you split up that same whole into 8 equal parts? And the answer is yes. The fourths are much bigger than the eighths. So if 1/4 is bigger than 1/8, then 3/4 is going to be greater than 3/8. And there's your answer. In this case, again, don't get tricked because the denominator is bigger than the numerator. In fact, the denominator for this one's bigger than the denominator for this one. In fact, the smaller denominator actually means bigger pieces. The bigger denominator actually means smaller pieces. Let's try another one. We'll switch it up, and this time we'll just look at fractions. No pictures yet. Again, the numerators are the same, 4 and 4, and the denominators are different, 3/2, and halves. So let's think about the unit fraction again. What's the unit fraction for 4/3? The unit fraction for 4/3 is 1/3. And what's the unit fraction for 4/2? 1/2. Which is a bigger piece, 1/3 or 1/2? If you have the same whole and you split it up into 3 parts, will it be bigger than the 2 parts? And the answer is no. The thirds will be smaller. The halves will be bigger. So let's go ahead and figure this out. Let's count by 1/3 until we get to 4/3. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Then we have to add another whole here because 3/3 is the same as 1 whole. So let's add 4/3. And there is your 4/3. Now let's try 4/2. 1/2, 2/2, there's your whole. And it looks like, again, we're greater than a whole because we have to keep counting our halves. 3/2, and 4/2. Wow, I'll bet you didn't think that was going to happen. Which is the greater fraction? 4/2 is greater than 4/3. because 1/2 is greater than 1/3. So if 1/2 is greater than 1/3, then 4 of them is going to be greater than 4 of those. Remember your unit fractions. Always try to remember those, and remember to draw lots of pictures.